Hello and welcome to a brand new edition of Smart Money. This is a part of our Outstanding Women in Finance series, and joining us now for this Outstanding in Women Finance series is Jyotsna Singh, the Senior Executive Director at Kotak Private Banking. She has been with Kotak for over 25 years and her career is spanning over several verticals like asset management, insurance, corporate banking, real estate and investment banking. Jyotsna, thank you so much for being with us here. And, this is a very special series that I've started, Outstanding Women in Finance, because I feel like this is a very competitive environment and women who have perhaps sustained through the course of decades, they need to be celebrated. So here we are celebrating these women. But tell us a little bit about your own journey. I mean, you've been with Kotak for 25 years now. How has it been?
Let me start by thanking you, Sonia. It's always a pleasure to be back here with you. Yes, a proud Kotak lifer of 25 plus years. I would say it's been an amazing journey. And of course, it's been a very different one because I really didn't feel the need to change jobs or move out of the organization, in the pursuit of growth, which is something I guess we all see, which is quite rampant, across the industry today. I guess I was also fortunate that I joined the group when it was still in its nascent stages, and the group was growing and expanding, and one just got a lot of opportunities in terms of dabbling across various businesses, and that's exactly what I did. I'd say multi-product, multi-locational, in fact, bond trading to investment banking, asset management to corporate banking, and more recently real estate to now private banking. So in many ways, I guess I have busted many myths or many stereotypes that, once an investment banker, always an investment banker, or once a corporate banker, always a corporate banker. So having said that, for me personally, what I felt is that this journey, which has been, I've actually cut across wholesale as well as retail businesses, and therefore it's been very varied, the experience, and I think personally it's been very enriching because it's given me a far more holistic and a well-rounded perspective of financial services. And I think in today's day and age, all of this versatility does add to longevity, and like I said, it's been an amazing journey and I've loved every moment of it.
I just wanted to get in there because this is this is actually a great time to be in financial services if you're a woman as well, right? I don't know if there are still any gender biases left. It's 2022, so a lot of that has been taken out. But in your long journey, have you faced those gender biases? Have there been issues like sort of gender pay gap and all of that? And how have you overcome it?
Let's just start by saying that, women today are taking the lead in pretty much every sphere, and financial services is no exception. And yes, they are scaling new heights. In fact, I want to say that, the role that women have played in the India growth story is in fact, a very significant and dynamic shift that we've seen, economic shift, if I may say so, that we've actually seen play out in the last few decades. Having said that, when you talked about gender biases, etc., there's a recent a World Economic Forum Global Gender Gap report that got released in 2021. And that unfortunately sort of shows India having dropped some 28 odd positions.
Yeah, it's a very low ranking.
Yeah, it's 140 out of 156 countries. So obviously, in fact, the gap has widened in the last few years, to about, they say 62.5%. So I think that is a little disturbing. And I think closer home, if you really look at some of the data that's got published by the National Sample Survey Office, so I'm not saying this is the data that's sort of come in from there. In 93, 94, women used to earn a whopping 48% less than their male counterparts. Okay. And this shrunk to about 28% as recently as 2018 and 19. But again, in the last few years, initial data seeming to suggest that this has grown by about 7%. And while we're sort of sharing data, I think even if you look at, say, celebrities, etc., who are fairly well-spoken, well-covered, etc., gender disparity, pay disparity is something they've always talked about.
Exists everywhere,
yeah,
yes.
So it's sort of, nothing new. And in the BFSI sector, since you asked about, closer to the heart, I want to say things are definitely much better. I feel there's a lot of participation of women in the sector. But again, unfortunately, we normally tend to look at, women who are more in the limelight or, just around us. But if you really look at it at a sector level, pan-India, there is data, and I think it was published in the ET a few years ago, so it's slightly dated, but there was a sort of clear messaging that women got about, the male counterparts typically got 1.27 times more than the women, even in the BFSI sector. And because of what we've seen in the pandemic and the great resignation year of 2021, etc., I won't be surprised if those numbers have, widened a little bit.
Okay.
So it kind of does exist to some extent, much as we'd like to believe that it doesn't.
It doesn't.
But I'm, very happy to say that, at Kotak Private Banking, we have 40% women, and I don't think any one of us have any of those issues. So
okay, that's great.
Yeah.
I mean, kudos to you guys. And I'm glad that the dialogue has at least started, right, across corporate India about reducing the gender pay gap, as well as, just being a little more gender equal across organizations. But coming back to investments, tell us, I mean, you have, as we were telling you, right, your career has spanned across verticals, whether it's investment banking, corporate banking. In your own personal journey, Jyotsna, what has been your biggest, perhaps, investment lesson? What is the biggest mistake that you made that you'd want to avoid? Because a lot of young people are watching our show. Sure. What would your advice be to them?
Many lessons, and I'd say still learning, because one should never and can never say that you've learnt it all, because life doesn't stop teaching you. Having said that, I would say a couple of key pointers. One, of course, is SIP. Yeah. And in an SIP here, I'm not referring to, what normally people associate it, but I'd say stay invested patiently. There's a very interesting read called, Leo Tolstoy has written this book way back in the 1860s. It's a masterpiece called War and Peace. And over there, he'd made a very profound observation way back then, saying that the strongest warriors of them all are time and patience. Now, I have no manner of doubt that he was saying this, from clearly a perspective of war and a military perspective. But I think today, 150 plus years later, this perspective really sort of holds true for the field of investments. And I think it's a very, very pertinent and important perspective, and we should not sort of lose sight of it. So while you're busy SIP, sipping your sort of,
investments.
Your investments, I'd say pay limited attention to the headlines. And what do I mean by that? I'm not saying be aloof and sort of be ignorant of what's happening around you, but there's a lot of noise, and there's a lot, so you have to learn to sort of cut out the noise and focus on what is in it for you, why are you in it, or how long are you in it for. And typically people plan investments at least from a medium to long-term perspective, and therefore you must cut out the noise. Let me just sort of say that when I started my career, I think the first thing that hit me pretty much on day one of my career, if it was not week one, was the Harshad Mehta scam. Yeah. And then of course one thing led to another. We saw the Asian currency crisis, we saw the Kargil war, we saw the dot-com bubble, we saw the Twin Towers, this thing, and I would say more recently and closer to home, we've seen demonetization. We saw, of course, the global financial crisis. We've seen COVID, which was an unknown, and of course now the Ukraine-Russia war. And I could go on and on, but the point I'm trying to make is that these events, sometimes you call them a black swan. COVID probably was one such thing, and so on and so forth, will keep happening. I mean, if I just say 25, 30 years of working and maybe 15 odd such events, one every 2 years. So stuff like this is likely to happen. But like I said, stay clued as to what's happening, but don't let it, bother you beyond the point. Stay the course would be my messaging. So clearly do that.
Okay, stay the course is your messaging. All right, we do want more investment lessons from you, but we need to take a short commercial break. Sure. So we'll do that, take a quick commercial break and be right back on Smart Money. Don't go anywhere.